Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. Hope you're well. Hope you had a fantastic weekend, and I hope your week is off to a flying start. How the devil is everybody? What are you up to tonight? What have you been up to over the weekend? Who's been hobbying? Who's been getting some games in? Anybody playing any tournaments? Anybody doing a little bit of retail therapy and spending them hobby dollars? Let me know what you've been up to over the weekend and what you're doing tonight. If you are new here, if for some weird random chance this is your first time here tonight and you're in nice and early, please do say hello in the chat. Give us a little wave. Introduce yourself so the crowd here can welcome you with open arms. And you know what? If this is the 300th time you've been here, still come and say hello. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. So let's have a little look in the chat and we'll see who we've got. We'll have a little rumble about what we're going to be talking about for our main topic tonight. I'm sure you'll have seen from the thumbnail tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about Space Marines and the new releases, but not the negative let's bash GW that you are expecting, or that I should say some people are expecting. It might be critical. It might be a little bit controversial is not the right word. It might be just it's my thoughts, but then there's no negativity, so don't be put off by that. Jez Hunt was literally about 5 minutes behind me posting the link this morning, so hello Jez if you're around already. And Matt was in there as well early doors, so was VJ as well, and the Suit of Pumpkin Man. And then we're up to tonight's chat as well. So Nos F1234, good evening Nos. We'll get back to your comments in a little bit, but we'll say hello to the folks in the chat first. Zingbo, good evening to you. Colin Mack, take care matey. I just see you there. You've just been to the hospital visiting family members and feeling a bit frazzled at the minute. Please chill mate, and I'll see you in the catch up. Super Pumpkin Man saying good afternoon to everybody. Tasty Brain Drains in as well. Hello to you, sir. VJ said quietly waits for the video to get comments / thumbs down bombed by marine lovers. You know what, mate? It's all interactive, isn't it? It's all interaction. It's all sort of clicks for the YouTube gods. I don't care about that kind of stuff. Big Dave, good evening to you, mate, as well. How are you doing? Wayne Haywood as well. Good evening. Welcome there as well. Is it Nos F or Nosf? Good evening to you. Matt, hello to you as well. Skullduggery's in. Good evening. Super Pumpkin Man says he's cleaning out his old VHS tapes. I think my VHS tapes definitely went the way of the dodo. I think when we were... You know what it is? It's one of those things that I've not owned a VHS player, like a VHS recorder or anything, for a long, long time. And when we moved house, and I'm going back a few years ago now, but we moved house, I had stacks of like VHS tapes and movies that I'd bought over the years. No way to ever play them. Charity shops are not even interested in them. And I think like they just ended up getting binned, and it was such a shame, really, all that nostalgia, but nobody wanted them. Like charity shops weren't interested in them. Yeah, so I think they all just went in the bin. They're probably going to be worth a fortune in about 20 years' time. Peter Stockdale, good evening to you. Zingbo says, dear YouTube, please stop trying to make top chat a thing, and please stop resetting it back at every available opportunity. Tell me about it, mate. The amount of times I've missed people's comments because I haven't realised that YouTube had popped it back. Every time I load up a chat, I have to go click the top. It's not top chat, it's live chat. I want to know what everybody says, not just what you consider to be top. How does it even know what's top chat? Is it a word count? Is it specific words it's looking for? I've got no idea what it classes as top chat. It's not quite top bants, is it? Derek Hodge, good evening to you, mate. How are you doing? Samir saying hello, hobby hooligans. Hello to you as well, Samir. How are you doing? Bobby Clark, good evening, good sir. He says he had fun supporting I jumped off my screen, 40 hours of 40k, I think it was, if I can find it again. Yep, 40 hours of 40k charity event over the weekend, raising over £6,000. Fantastic, mate. Round of applause for you and the charity there, mate. Congrats on that one. VJ is popping the kettle on. I think I'll have a coffee, mate, if you don't mind. Milk, no sugar. Matt says, like people, like the chat. Please, please, please give it a thumbs up. We've got more people than we have likes, which is never a good thing. Let's have more likes. Ted Williams, good evening to you, mate. How are you doing? Feature says only 300th. Noobs. I can't even remember how many chats we've had. Bearing in mind, let's say that I do miss a few through the year for like holidays or sickness or when I can't think of anything to talk about. But let's say generally I stream most weeks every Monday. So let's say there is 45 a year. I wouldn't say I miss more than 7 a year. But let's say there's 45 a year, and I've been doing this for about... How long have I been doing live streams? Let's say about... Probably about... Do you know what, mate? 300's probably not a million miles away from it, to be fair. We used to do the painting streams as well, so who knows? But yeah, I'll be around 300 streams, I bet. John Est... Oh, sorry. So I'll get you, John Estel, in a second. John Shepherd says, good evening, people. I backed a Kickstarter to buy Limelight miniatures for 40mm Chibi God Minotaurs. The campaign ended sometime last month and they arrived a few days ago. Was quick delivery. That's what I like to see, mate. It's a bit weird. I mean, it's definitely not a Kickstarter when they come that quick. It's definitely a pre-order system, but I like the fact that you got what you paid for and you got it fast. John S. That's what I said. Nice to be here. He's taking a break from painting Night Stalkers. I hope your wife is feeling better soon, mate. I know you were saying that she's not well at the moment, so I hope she's feeling better. I'm sorry that you didn't get to play your games tonight, but it's always lovely to have you here, mate. So thank you for joining us tonight. Frantic, hello, Frantic. He says, typical Andy triggering people. I tell you what, I think I do trigger people from time to time, but I think I trigger them because they come in full of like full of froth and mouth and anger at what my title is or whatever it is, and they misinterpret what I'm about to say. It's not clickbait, it's good marketing, but I think they come in with a preconceived idea and come to fight their corner, and then once I start talking, it's like, oh well, that's not what I thought he was going to say. It is about the subject, but I assumed it was going to be something different. So I'm sure I do trigger a few people, mate. Matt says, I got my very first airbrush. Congratulations. Minus the pressure hose and the manual, and with signs of use on the needle and thread. Sorry, not congratulations. And slightly scratched and back. Yes, definitely send that one back, mate. It does not sound like it's what you wanted. It sounds like somebody's took the bits out they needed, replaced their old one with the new one, and sent it back. Nosef says, I do. Warhammer 40K is not only miniature gaming, there are also stories and lore. Yes, and I guess we'll get onto that in a little bit as well. But yes, we talk about the miniatures a lot, and we talk about the gaming side a lot, because that's generally the side of things that I'm more involved in when it comes to tabletop stuff. But yeah, there are plenty of people who just enjoy the Warhammer universe and just read the books or buy a White Dwarf or watch the animations and stuff as well. Let's have a little look down here. Yoakum, good evening, sir. He said he's working on his painting challenge tonight. Finally decided what to paint. Very, very nice. I've actually got... So for those of you who haven't submitted a painting challenge yet, and I'll let you into a little secret, that's all of you except one person. Next Sunday is the deadline cut off for September's Sexy September painting challenge. I already have a fantastic idea for October, which is a little bit different, and some of you might go, oh, I don't know what to use for that. It's going to be a good one though, folks. So yes, keep next week we'll also have a guest on the channel next week, assuming all things the moons line up and everything works fine. But we'll have a guest to have a chat to next week on the live stream. We'll also be showing off the painting submissions for the painting challenge for September, and yeah, I'll be setting you October's challenge too. Let's have a little look down here. Super Punker Man says, I've only thrown out all the ones I replaced on DVD already. Yeah, to be even DVDs, mate. I mean, like, I don't technically have a DVD player in the house. I've got like a PlayStation 5, which has got a DVD drive in it. So if we ever want to watch like one of our old DVDs or something like that, and I did get rid of a lot of them when we moved, and I kept the ones that were like important to me, shall we say, things like TV box sets where I might want to watch it at some point in the future, or the odd kind of like I've got a couple of DVDs that have been signed by people that are kind of appear in them and stuff like that, so they're more just like collector's things to me. But on the rare occasion that we do want to watch a DVD, yeah, the PlayStation gets dragged downstairs and we have to use that. Let's have a little look. Oh, let me just go back a little bit here because that just decided to kick me down on the screen there a little bit. Kodos, good evening to you, mate. How are you doing? Got Louis Duke as well. Nice to see you, mate. He says, thanks for the call out. What a silly setting. A silly setting. What a silly setting. I wonder what we're talking about. Let's have a little look down here as well. Tizzy Brain Drain saying, preach it, Zingbo, preach it. What's Zingbo saying? You know what it is? I've got live chat on here. I'm assuming I'm not missing anybody's comments here. Let's have a little look. Oh, sorry. See, just did my part and clicked the button. Thank you very much. We could still do with more likes, I promise you. We've got 46 people watching at the moment, which is not bad for the first 5 minutes. And we've only got 29 likes. So please do your thing. Deep Red saying, hail and well, Metal Son. I'm like number 25. Dave Mackay, good evening to you, mate. Good morning, Camo. Nice to see you in. RG saying, I thought it was going to be late. Clearly not. Andy's got too excited. I'm always excited, mate. Always excited to see you lot. I'm glad your wife's feeling a little bit better, mate. That's always the bit. Once you get over that initial fever bit, it's kind of like it's on the mend from that point, isn't it? Greg Cherry says, no, title is correct. Reveals were meh. So yes, tonight's title is I just can't get excited for more Warhammer 40k Space Marines, and we'll be coming onto that. The Space Marines went up for pre-order, or they were announced what was coming up for pre-order this weekend. There is a 2-week pre-order on this one as well, which is unusual, but that's what it is. And we'll come on to why I'm why I can't get excited by them, why I feel like it's a bit meh. But yes, it's not, like, as I said before, not the negativity that some folks will be expecting. Richie says, no one does anger and foaming at the mouth like Marine players. Super Pokemon says, they start reading between the lines of stuff you did not say. I think folks tend to, and this is just just the way the world is, I think, these days now, is they tend to jump to conclusions. They read something, assume that they know what it means, and then go on the defensive if they are. So for example, if somebody is a 40k or a Marine fan, they instantly go on the defensive, and if they are a bit anti kind of GW or anti Marines, they tend to jump on the bandwagon of, oh yes, he hates them as much as we do, kind of thing. And as with anything in life, there's always nuances and there's grey areas in the middle and stuff like that. And I think anybody that watches my stuff with any regularity will kind of know I'm not necessarily the drama llama that some other channels are. But you have to be able to prod the bear a little bit from time to time. That's what gets people to click. That's what gets people to come and watch videos, especially folks outside of our normal kind of community type stuff. Because of Ben, good evening. He said, as I told the chaps at my club, 40k puts me to sleep. Yeah, I mean, I quite like the world of 40k. I wouldn't say it puts me to sleep. I don't, but there by the same stretch, I don't really dive in deep to have a very, very strong opinion one way or the other, I suppose. Tony Howell, good evening to you, sir. How are you doing, mate? Peter Kuhlman as well, good evening, sir. Welcome to the chit chat tonight. Coffee time hobby. Wow, I like that name, mate. Coffee. It makes me want to put my feet up and have a brew. He says, looking forward to this topic. I feel like I'm going to agree with it. Let's find out. Let's find out. Matt saying, can we send over pics if we're overcome crippling anxiety to actually paint something up? You absolutely can, mate. Do not worry about showing off your pictures, no matter what standard you're at in your painting, no matter where you are in your painting journey. If you're painting your first model, if you've been painting for 20 years and you feel like the models you paint now are worse than the ones you painted the day you started, celebrate the fact that you are doing the hobby. You are part of the community. You are having fun. The standard that you judge yourself by is not relevant when it comes to these painting challenges. It's about getting something done and trying to just break through the barrier of, I don't feel like picking up a paintbrush this month kind of thing. It's not about how well you've painted something. It's, did you complete it? Did you set out to do something and did you manage to finish it? That's what the challenges are about. So never, never, never worry about thinking that your models or your paint jobs are not good enough, because they are. If you've done them, then they're good enough. That's all you need to know. I wonder who that is. There's a chat there. Just says, evening, how's everyone? And there's no name beside it. I wonder who that is. Skullduggery says, a friend bought me Dungeons and Lasers Dragon model kit, my first plastic kit, as I get most of my minis from board games and 3D printing. I have to say the building experience was really quite nice. They are quite nice, to be fair, those Dungeons and Lasers kits. The dragons. Colin Wakeland, good evening to you, my friend. VJ saying, only VHS cassettes I refuse to throw out of my original pre-special edition Star Wars ones. Yeah, they might be worth a few quid in the future, mate. Haven't had a player in years, but not even George Lucas could pry those from my hands. From my cold, dead hands. Paul Richardson, good evening, Paul. How are you, my friend? Ryan Barry, hello, buddy. Mordecai saying, looking forward to the new vampire-themed skirmish game from Whittle Goblin and Black Site Studios. Yeah, I saw something about that the other day. It looks pretty cool. Tasty Brain Drain says, I was responding to Zingbo's comments about YouTube constantly switching things. Yeah, I think it seemed so far down the chat that I felt like I'd missed a comment, mate. Thank you. Super Punky Man saying, yeah, I have the original Star Wars VHSs and Universal movie monsters, and those will rot on my shelves forever. And Samir saying, meh, same old Marines, slightly bigger, different name, same concept. I like the OG stuff as little hobby projects. I might be controversial here, but I prefer the Primaris Marines. But we'll come on to the main topic and I'll explain my background on that one. Tavinda, good evening to you. He says, I hope you're doing well today. I'm doing very well, thanks for asking, Tavinda. And he says, look forward to this topic. Well, thank you very much. It's nice to have you all in, chatting hobby. And as always, just because so the way these live streams work, I'm kind of going to open the curtains here behind the Wizard of Oz a little bit and kind of tell you how these live streams kind of work. And a little bit of kind of about sort of content creation, all that kind of stuff as well is I generally struggle week to week to come up with a topic for a Monday night live stream, and the reason I struggle is kind of twofold. One is sometimes there's just not much to talk about in terms of sort of big news or anything that's really kind of anything that could spark a conversation. There's plenty of things where you could go, oh, did you see such and such are releasing like a new game or something like that? And you go, oh yeah, it looks interesting, but we don't know anything about it. The prime example is the vampire game from Black Site Studios. We know it's coming, don't know anything about it. There's not much to kind of, how can I put, to kind of like to speculate on at the moment. And generally games, if they're not Games Workshop, there's generally less interest in them anyway, so they're not the best things to be like main topics for a Monday night kind of thing. So sometimes there's not a lot of news kind of thing, or there's not big news, and so it's quite kind of, it can be quite tough to come up with a Monday night live stream topics. So if you've ever got any, feel free to kind of drop them my way. It's always good to have some backup ideas and things like that. However, I was thinking the other day that there's plenty of stuff to talk about, but it's not enough to kind of bring people into a live stream on a Monday. And that's where my This Week in Wargaming video come from, is that there's loads of things I want to kind of mention and say, oh, like these minis look cool, or so-and-so's got a Kickstarter, that looks pretty cool, have you seen that? And I think that This Week in Wargaming update every Friday, a kind of 5 to 10 minute video when I kind of pick maybe 5 or 6 bits of things that's happening in the tabletop news. I think that's a good way to kind of use those topics that are not big enough for a Monday night live stream. The other side of it is live streams don't do particularly well in general, and so you have to have some kind of topic that will drag people in, that you can make a good thumbnail for, you can make a good title for, will drag people in and go, oh, what the hell's that sort of triggering bald person talking about this week kind of thing. And sometimes annoying people is as good a way to drag them in as well as trying to kind of sort of show something new off. So there's a real balance to kind of those Monday night live topics and stuff. So yeah, it's a difficult thing to kind of to balance, but if you want to grow, if you want to keep going, if I want to keep doing this full time as a job, I need people to watch. So that's just how it works. Let's have a little look here. Zingbo says, these Marines in particular are mainly updates of existing kits, and we already know what Primaris versions of all Marines look like. I like Marines, but there's little that is novel in this lot. Matt saying, Prod and GW has become a secondary hobby for me. They make it so easy with their corporate decisions. Tony saying, I bought Star Wars on DVD, was disappointed that they had a load of nonsense edited in that made no sense, and stood out as glaring bad patchwork and binned them. Tony Howell, you can't say anything bad about Star Wars, mate. It's always good, even the bad stuff. Samir says, any submission to the hobby challenge is a great and worthy submission. We're all on our own journey when it comes to the hobby. 100%, mate. It's very much a case of, like, what is it? Comparison is the thief of joy, I think, is a really, really good phrase, and we shouldn't be comparing what we do to other people. We shouldn't even sometimes be comparing it what we've done to stuff we've done previously. Sometimes it's just nice to paint something for the sake of painting something and enjoy the journey, not necessarily the kind of the end product, if you like. It's like some people enjoy cooking food for the actual the cooking, like for the preparation and the cooking of stuff. The eating of the food is almost just a bit of a bonus kind of thing. People enjoy fishing because they enjoy the peace and the tranquility and the sitting at the riverside and just casting their rod out and, you know, putting the world to rights with a friend or something like that. Whether you catch a fish or not might not necessarily make a difference to the day. So yeah, think of painting like that. James Bray, hello fella, he's saying looking forward to the October challenge, the Voyager-tober challenge. I promise you it won't be Star Trek related, mate. But I'm sure you'll find a way to put yours in. Peter Cooman says, funny, I'm finishing my last squad of original Marines right now. It fits the theme. John saying, just had a look through the Space Marines that have been revealed. To be honest, I'd have believed most of them were already out, but I do like the Space Wolf Predator for Horus Heresy. Yes, we'll show the image of that off as well. It's definitely the pick of the bunch, I would think, from what was announced. Tony says, the painting challenge is open to all. We celebrate the achievement, not the skill. Well said, buddy, well said. And VJ saying, when you boil it down, the minis and the lore are better than the actual game of 40k, but hey, different strokes. Yeah, I agree. What's up, Biatches? Says Luke Pryor. Hello, mate. How you doing? Matt says, damn it, the wholesomeness is causing my allergies to play up. I'm not crying, you're crying. Luke says he got his Mantic Terrain crate stuff with all the new alien tree things. Really cool. It's nice to see that starting to ship. It wasn't that long ago that launched, so it's really good to see a Kickstarter kind of sort of delivering in a good time scale. Joey C, good evening to you, mate. He says, back to painting his Veerman for the challenge. His son has claimed them as his team already. Nice one. Luke saying, I think I prefer Primaris as well. Always used to be so impressed when people did true scale Marines projects back in the day, and they were basically Primaris, yeah. John says VHS cases used to be great for holding and transporting 6mm armies. I chucked the VHS tapes but kept the cases. Mantic Games stuff used to come in VHS cases when it first launched. If you bought any kind of zombies or any of the undead, any of the dwarfs, any of the elves, they all came in VHS cases, which was quite a kind of like a cool little thing at the time. Derek saying he prefers the Primaris as well, more like they were always presented in the lore. Big boys. Chonky. Luke said, I remember when all Mantic products came in. Yeah, we're just talking about that there. Big Dave saying, I like most of the Marine sculpts, Primaris and Firstborn. I just can't afford to buy them anymore. That, my friend, is a different conversation. Let's have a little look down here. Cortus is saying he prefers Primaris model-wise, but they should have just updated the model line instead of doing both. I'll come on to that, mate, actually. I don't disagree with that. Let's have a look. People having a bit of a chat backwards and forwards. Matt says, yes, but we need t-shirt now and a theme. I wonder what that was about. We will box you. Greg Cherry, hello, mate. Says, how do people feel about the trend of content creators making games, marketing because they have an audience, actually good game developers? It's interesting, mate, and I have my own thoughts on it. I think at the end of the day, content creators or creators, if you don't want to use the word content, because not everybody creates content. Some people just create things. If it becomes your job, you'd be surprised how little money you make. And I think any way you can capitalize on any kind of, in some cases, popularity, trading on the fact that you have an audience, that you have loyal subscribers and followers and that kind of thing. I think if you've ever had any ambitions to create a game, there's probably no better way to do it. There's a lot of creators have created games, and I think, to be honest, the game stands on its own 2 feet at the end of the day. I think their popularity is a way to get it in front of people. Whether it's a good game or not really depends upon the sort of the judge of it, who is the person playing the game, the person that's bought it. If the games are not very good, then I guess if they decide to create a second one, it might not quite do quite so well either. So it really just depends on the quality of the game, I suppose. Let's have a little look here. Luke says, you don't need to look at me twice to know I enjoy the eating of the food as much as the cooking of it. I don't really enjoy the cooking of it, I'll be perfectly honest. I feel that anything that takes me longer to cook than it does to eat is a bit of wasted time for me personally, but I do understand that other people enjoy it. Mordecai says, have you considered making the news videos into shorts like TikToks as well? Not sure how much more work that would be, but it could be good for views. The problem with it is, mate, is TikToks and shorts need to be filmed in a portrait way, and YouTube videos are kind of filmed in landscape. So I'd probably end up having to re-edit it. And also, I think TikToks and shorts are generally about 2 minutes long. So if I could clip each separate news story into a short, it might work. But then I don't know if that's just going to hurt the other video. I did my first ever short the other day, and it did alright actually, which was a little bit of 3D printing, and it was more just as a test to see how it worked. So I'm not on TikTok. I've never done any TikToks or anything like that, but it might be something to look into. Anything that gets eyes on the stuff, I guess, is never a bad thing, is it? So yeah, I appreciate the suggestion though. What somebody did suggest to me was putting out the news videos as a podcast to the Patreons, so they can basically listen to it in audio format as well if they wanted to. And that's something that's pretty simple to do, because I record it as an audio thing and then sort of put the images over the top anyway. So yeah, it's potential for that one, definitely. Yeah, Matt's saying as well, I'm fine as long as the game's fine. Got no issues. It's a creator doing it. Exactly. No difference whether it's a big company do it or whether it's somebody like that as well. So yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, Peter's saying he's still got a bunch of Dead Zone first edition in cases. Vijay's saying it's school holidays, so he's got the little guy at home for the next 2 weeks. Yeah, I know what that's like through the summer holidays and stuff, mate, as well. Luke says, do they still make all size Marines and Primaris? I presumed it was all Primaris now. I think they're definitely moving away from the Firstborn or wherever they call them. But it's, I think technically they're still around. We've had a super chat there, but I'm not sure it's popped up on the screen yet. Is it? I'm sure it'll pop up at some point. But anyway, Alter Nerd Realities. There it is. Thank you very much, Alter Nerd. Appreciate the super chat there. It says, I'm digging all the print and play tabletop games that are being created by all the 3D artists on Patreon. They're creating for their own line of figs. Nice change of pace from GW. I was just trying to click something there. A little thing came up when it went, celebrate the first super chat from Alter Nerd Realities. So I thought I had to click it to celebrate it, but I think it's just telling me to get excited about it. I'm always excited about anybody donating, whether it's your first one or your 10th one. It's always nice to have a donation, and it's always appreciated. So thank you very much. Yeah, I agree with the 3D artists, people like One Page Rules and other people like that. Anybody that's creating a bit of a rule set and then doing their own figures, or doing their own figures and creating like a simple to play rule set alongside it, always good in my book. The more stuff to choose from, the better chance there is of everybody finding something that's up their street. Vijay saying, yeah, They just discontinued all the old Marines at the start of 10th. Yeah, I think that's true as well, mate. He's saying I could be wrong. I don't follow it that closely either, but we'll have a look on the website and stuff when we get into chat. VG says, yeah, I forgot. Congrats on the new news video format. Really enjoyed it. Hope they go far and bring more eyes to the channel. To be honest, mate, it did all right. It started off pretty well, and you could see YouTube were testing it with people, because like the graph would start to climb, and then it would kind of climb a bit faster, and then it would level out, and then it would climb a bit faster, and you could see where YouTube were like pushing it out and trying it at people. But then you could also see the point, and it was like, it was my most watched video, like for that time frame. So what it does is, after the video has been live for an hour, it tells you how it compared to your last 10 videos in the same time frame. And it was my number one most watched video in that like first hour time slot, and it continued to grow from there. You can also see the point where YouTube turned the switch off and just go, yep, that's it, not sharing it with anybody now, we've had enough, we've did a bit of testing, not bothered now. And it like just flatlines after that. Like, it's not going out to anybody now, nobody's getting to see it. So I think it was definitely worth kind of leading with a GW edge to it, because I think that was getting it in front of people that maybe wouldn't have watched it ordinarily. And I think it's a good way to kind of to introduce people to like other maybe smaller tabletop games, maybe smaller companies, by kind of giving them it as a little bit of like, you know, if you like this stuff, how about this as well? And keeping it relatively short, I think is the way to do it. I really like the way that Beasts of War on Tabletop do their Weekender video, where they introduce and kind of share some bits of news stories, and they basically introduce people to some like sort of smaller independent creators. I think it's probably a bit long in terms of the length of it. It's great if you put it on in the background. I quite often put it on if I'm painting or something like that. It's the one thing I kind of watch kind of quite often or listen to. But I like the idea of it being a little bit more kind of short and kind of to the point, and to allow people here's a little snapshot of information. If you like it, kind of go and have a look and do some more research yourself. So yeah, I quite enjoyed that. But yeah, I'm going to be doing it every week, every Friday. The plan is to have it up at the same time every week, so that you know to expect it. The same way we have Monday night live streams every Monday, 9 PM UK time. We'll have the kind of This Week in Wargaming video every Friday, and we'll just keep doing that. Jess is saying, I'm fashionably late. How's everyone doing? That news video was great. Thank you, mate. And VG says, is the plan to make them weekly or fortnightly? Definitely weekly, mate. This Week in Wargaming, that's why I decided to kind of title it, try and keep it nice and snappy. And I'll be doing it on a weekly basis, mate, yeah. Matt says, you have to appease them almighty algorithms. You definitely do, mate, that's for sure. I've kind of fought against it for a long time, and I was frustrated by the fact that videos only get clicked when you put Games Workshop in them. But I think as long as I'm being honest about it, and as long as I'm not just putting Games Workshop in the title and they're not talking about them, I think when it comes to weekly news videos, Games Workshop release so much new stuff, there's always going to be something to mention. And it also, the point is that by not talking about the biggest miniatures company in the industry, I'm almost doing my own news kind of update a bit of a disservice as well. So I think there's a way to kind of to make it work. Zingbo saying that not all firstborn have been retired, but it's very obvious the way the wind's blown. They'll all be gone in the next edition at the earliest. Yeah. Ultra Nerd Reality says, I enjoyed the format. Thank you very much, buddy. Matt saying, honestly, using GW News to get people's attention and then threading over games in the same news video is genius for exposing people to new games. Yeah, I feel comfortable doing that. I don't feel like I'm kind of selling my soul that way. Because I always used to feel I always felt it was bad to kind of lead with, to shoehorn Warhammer in there. There's been videos in the past by other creators where they've went, how I painted my Warhammer army, and then they're basically painting one-page rules stuff or something like that, because they know putting one-page rules in the title doesn't work. But so they just shoehorn Warhammer in there kind of thing, and I always feel that's a bit disingenuous. But if there's a legitimate way to do it, I'm all for it. VJ saying, yeah, sorry, fortnightly means every 2 weeks for our strange American folks who don't understand that word. Was odd when I found out Yanks don't use that word often. Yeah, it's funny. I think Americans tend to use bi-weekly, which I find is strange anyway, but there you go. Matt saying, not to be mixed up with fortnightly, which is what the devil gets to do to sinners. And Jez says, awesome weekly gaming news. Yeah, it just kind of come to me as an idea. I thought if I can write down 10 bits of news items this week, then I would imagine that on most weeks I can probably find 5. And I went down and I probably found about 20 bits of news that I thought was interesting. So I thought, yeah, if I can pick out 5 of them from this list, they don't even necessarily need to be the best 5, maybe just 5 I'm interested in. But there's plenty of places on the internet that kind of give little snippets of stuff. I get press releases sent to me, and I can look through Twitter, or X as it's called now, and see what people are kind of pushing and stuff like that. I think it's pretty good. VG saying, GW put out so much stuff. If you're doing news, you pretty much need to cover their stuff. Makes sense to do it. Yeah, that's kind of the way I see it. I feel like if I don't mention it, good or bad as well, and it's not a case, I don't mean to be necessarily critical. Like, I was maybe a little bit critical this week with like GW doing some shady stuff, and I stand by that. I do think it's a bit shady, taking away free rules and making people pay for them when all of the other armies have got free rules, and gradually we can see that's what's going to happen. The free stuff's going to disappear. I feel like they could have just archived it and said, here's the old free rules for anybody that just wants to dip their toe in before they buy a codex or whatever. They're there in a vault kind of thing for you to access. I didn't feel like they needed to take away the free rules. And yeah, VJ's saying, yeah, 100% agree. Get them in the door with a GW and then hit them with a variety stuff. Zingbo says, I'm waiting for you to release a video titled Games Workshop Ate My Hamster. I almost kind of did, I suppose, mate, when I released a video that said Games Workshop's Kill My Channel or something like that. That certainly got a reaction, that's for sure. Luke saying, the fact Americans do not use a 24-hour clock outside of military blew my mind. Is that true? I didn't know that. My understanding is they even call it military time. Wow. I did not know that, mate. That's news to me as well. Matt says, pie weekly because your doctor told you off for eating them every night. Super Punky Man saying, yeah, he knew what a fortnight was, but then he reads a lot. Yeah. And Mordecai says, to be fair, the right context, you can argue that Warhammer is the Kleenex of war games, much like D&D is for RPGs. Still love Luke's Stealth Kings of War video. Yeah, that was one of the ones I was kind of, and even I kind of pulled him on that one and went, oh, that was a bit cheeky, saying about your Warhammer army, and when it was all Kings of War stuff. John Ashley Smith, hello John, by the way, he says Fortnite's only a video game to North Americans. The term isn't used in Canada. Wow, there you go. Nice one. So I'll tell you what we'll do then, folks. We will get on to the main topic. Let me cue some of this stuff up. I think what I might do is, well, I used to clip videos out as well and record them and stuff, and I might try and see if I can do that tonight. This feels like a topic that might be kind of worthwhile. So we'll flick across to here. We'll set away that recording. Did that work? Yes, that's recording there. And what I'll do is I'll get my little screens up in the background here as well to kind of switch over to. So tonight's topic, I want to talk about the new releases of Space Marines for Warhammer 40K and why I'm failing to get excited for them. So for those that don't know, basically we've had the 10th edition launched about 3 months ago now, and not too long ago, very recently, the first new codex and the first update for 10th edition was the Tyranids. And this week we'll see the pre-orders go live for the Space Marine Codex and a bunch of new Space Marine models as well. And I was looking at them this morning after they were announced on Warhammer Community last night, and I have to start this by saying I I do like Space Marines. If I was going to kind of pick up an army now and start from scratch with a Warhammer 40,000 army, I probably would choose Space Marines. I still think they look pretty cool. I like the aesthetic of the Space Marines in the power armor, and I think a nice painted army on the tabletop all together, I think it does look fantastic. That's not what I'm talking about. So if you think I'm somebody that kind of hates Space Marines, you're probably barking up the wrong tree a little bit. I want to show you basically what they kind of showed us, what they teased out, and tell you exactly where I'm coming from with it. So what we've got here is we've got the Space Marine Codex here, and whoops, let me just go here. What we've got here is the Space Marine Codex, and this will be coming out in the next few weeks. So it goes up for pre-order on Friday. There's a 2-week pre-order window, and then you'll be able to pick them up. And there is a like a limited edition version for those hardened Space Marine fans that basically has a luxury special edition featuring unique cover art, foil details, fetching gilt page edges, and strictly limited to just a few thousand copies. And then we got into the Marines themselves, and here we've got a captain with a jump pack. I think it's a fantastic model in terms of the sculpt. I think the way it kind of looks with the flowing cape. I'm not sure that the cape would survive those thrusters going off on the jetpack, but let's suspend disbelief for a little bit. I think the pose looks pretty good. I'm never that sort of keen on the way that it's perched on a piece of metal kind of thing jutting out of the ground, but I understand they're trying to get some kind of movement in the model. But as a model in itself, as a sculpt, I think it's fantastically well done. I think Games Workshop make some of the best, if not the best, certainly the most consistently good quality plastic miniatures, and I'm not really arguing with that. We'll scroll down a little bit more, and we've got a chaplain here in Terminator armor. Again, I think it's a fantastic sculpt. I think the sculptors themselves have done a really good job of it. I like the fact that it's kind of the sort of like the face on it is less of the kind of the skull that a lot of the chaplains normally have. I like the fact that you can have an optional relic shield here as well. Really nice model. And then we've got these company heroes, which is a mixture of bits and pieces. We've then got a Terminator squad, which were the new bigger scale Terminators that came with the latest launch box with the Leviathan box. We've got these jump pack intercessors as well, which I think are new. Again, kind of perched on the edges of bits of tactical rocks and stuff. And then we've got a Stern Guard veteran squad, which again, I love them with the little bits of kind of the little bits of robes or tunics hanging down there and stuff. I think they look good. And then we've got this lieutenant who very much reminds me of kind of old Rogue Trader era, kind of posing with the power fist and the plasma pistol there and the little I don't even know what it's called, but basically the thing over the eye there. Now, oh yeah, we've also got this dreadnought as well, this Brutalis dreadnought. Now, what I'm talking about here, and what I'm discussing when I'm talking about why I can't get excited about them, is they just feel like every other Marine. Fantastic quality, really nicely made, lots of different kind of options and weapon options and stuff with them, but if you told me that they'd came out 2 years ago, I wouldn't kind of disbelieve you. I wouldn't be kind of I wouldn't be surprised kind of thing. These could have came out yesterday, or they could have came out 2 years ago, or they could have came out with the Indomitors box going back probably 3 or 4 years ago now. 3 years I think it is. The problem with Marines is they all just look very, very similar in that power armor, and especially when they're always in the ultramarine kind of colors as well when they're showing them off, it's very difficult to really kind of tell the difference between them. And that for me is somebody on the outskirts, maybe somebody that's not a hardened kind of 40k fan. I find it hard to get excited because it's just, if somebody shows me one, I go, oh yeah, it's a really, really nice model, but what's different? What makes it different from all of the other Marines that we already can buy and have been able to buy for ages? It might be a different weapon, it might be a slightly different pose, but to me that's not really enough to get excited about. Like just the fact that we've got a new captain, and this one's got a sword in a different hand or something, or we've got a new lieutenant, but in this one, instead of pointing his pistol forward, he's pointing it to the side, kind of thing. It feels like that's what we get when it comes to Space Marines, and I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword, really. When in fairness to Games Workshop, like they've kind of set their stall out. Space Marines wear power armor, and this is what they look like, and they all have very similar kind of uniform type stuff. And I don't think they really want to stray too far from that. The problem is Games Workshop makes some fantastic miniatures and some really kind of unusual miniatures, and it feels like Space Marines is off. Like they're off the menu when it comes to kind of being able to put some cool and interesting things in it. Let me show you something else that kind of got announced today, and this is the Ironhead Squat Prospectors. Is it? No, it's not. Sorry, this is the Arachnica Ash Jumpers, and these are for Necromunda. And I think these are the kind of things that it would be cool to see in a Space Marine kind of army. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly this, but something just a bit different, something that just is a break from the norm when it just comes to guy in power armor with a big gun, guy in power armor pointing his gun a different way, guy in power armor with a sword. These are kind of like, these are unusual. These forward the story a little bit. These forward the kind of the narrative a little bit. And I know people might kind of cry out and say like, oh, well, it doesn't fit with the lore. Don't let the lore hold back what could be a fantastic kind of new direction for things. I think there's some really, really good details on these. I love the way they've got different weapon options. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to paint on them, but I think the detail is fantastic. And I also love this as well, that these come through from the Ash Waste Nomads as well. It says, is it the Asungar, the Lady of Ash? It says she's an influential spirit speaker, and then she's got regarded as a living embodiment of the scavenger creature who inhabits the wasteland. It says hivers know little about her for certain, but she seems to display an almost psychic bond with beasts, such as her Grapplehawk familiar, Terror's Shadow. And I think these are exactly the kind of things that I would love to kind of see breaking over in Space Marines. Maybe not the creature so much. I appreciate that's kind of like, maybe breaking with the law and stuff, but why can't they have characters like this? Why can't you have individuals in your army that have a little bit something else rather than just another person in power armor kind of thing? I think these look fantastic. I also love the terrain as well that they've got for Ash Wastes. I think it's really, really nice. And today they also announced as well was this terrain for Warcry, and again, because they've based the new sort of season of Warcry in a different location, this is really kind of showing off just the kind of things that they can do. So it's not about the fact that Games Workshop make dull miniatures or they make boring miniatures or anything like that. I think they make fantastic miniatures. I think the quality of the stuff, the creativity of their sculptors, I think it's astounding. And the level of sort of things that they can bring to the tabletop and the speed they do it is to be admired. But I just think when it comes to Space Marines, it's their biggest selling stuff. They don't want to move away from what's tried and tested, and they don't want to kind of rock the boat. They're frightened about sort of introducing something new in case it messes with the law and everybody's up in arms about it. We only have to look at Primaris Marines versus the old kind of Firstborn Marines just to show how people react when you try and develop something. And all they were doing really there was making bigger versions of the armor. So I get why they're a bit wary when it comes to messing around with Space Marines, but as I said in the title, it's hard to get excited about new Space Marines when it's just more of the same. I just wish, even if it was new sort of vehicles, if it was extra characters that could come in and be part of a Space Marine army, if it was crossover stuff that maybe like multi-faction models that can be part of a Space Marine army or part of a different faction. Just something to give it a little bit more flavour than just Marines in armor. Like, that's all we get is that same kind of silhouette with a different weapon. Some of them have a cloak, some of them have a jetpack. I'd love to know what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you think that kind of Space Marines are all just a little bit samey now? Are you a massive fan of Space Marines and you don't want anything to change? You want them to keep being the same? You know, I know what I like and I don't want to change kind of thing? Or do you just wish that there was a little bit more flavour in a Space Marine army and it wasn't just basically all armoured guys? Let me know what you think in the comments. So, it's been a while since I've done one of them. Clip a video out. Look at me trying to make my content last. See how it goes. Right, let's have a little look back and see what folks are saying here. John says, I don't hate Space Marines, but I can't say I'm a fan of Primaris Marines. Lot of nerve, trying to make my regular old Marines redundant. Nice try, but no thanks. I think this goes back to exactly what I was just saying there in that kind of clip piece, is that essentially they've been wanting to bring Marines up to date for a while. All of their models have kind of gradually over time got a little bit more like chunky and a bit more true to scale, if you like, and it's ended up with their main core bread and butter Marines looking a little bit small in comparison. And I think it was the right thing to do, to be fair. And I mean, there's nothing stopping you really using your old Marines as Primaris Marines if you wanted to. If they basically changed the rules and they just said there are no old school Marines now, there's only Primaris, and you've got an army that basically is all old school Marines, there's nothing really stopping you saying, well, they just count as Primaris Marines. Now I just use those rules for them. So I don't think it's the end of the world kind of thing. I think it's just a lot of people are very, very passionate when it comes to kind of, you can't change the law and you can't do this. I think at the point when it becomes restrictive to what you can do with the product, I think that's the point that you need to start kind of having a look at it, really. Tasty brain drinking. Well, of course the cape would survive. The Emperor protects. Matt saying they're so overly detailed. I think one of the things now, Matt, with a lot of those Marines is that some of those pieces are optional. You don't have to put them on now. I think they're a lot more flexible. Like, they might be one kind of single pose, but you can do weapon swaps. You don't have to put all of the purity seals on. You don't have to put all of the crucifix stuff on them and things like that. Skulldoggy saying there are quizzes that can guess with pretty high accuracy where you're based on what you call things. It's a really interesting phenomenon. I agree, mate. I quite like the fact that we all have different little phrases for stuff. Andrew Fairbanks is saying the cape probably is made of unobtainium. maybe once they fire up, it kind of like retracts inside his belt or something like that. Maybe that's what it is. John saying I need power armor for my mate who's a hospital chaplain. I can see him turning up the hospital in one of those, mate. Jess is, like I said in the Discord, great designs, but they're just more background noise. Partly because they're so ubiquitous, the popcorn of the mini world. Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. I mean, like I say, I do like them, but I want to just, well, very briefly here, we'll go over to the Games Workshop website here, and if I scroll down and I pick up Space Marines and I click on Space Marines and I click on View All, like, that is a really nice miniature. I really like it, but that came out in the Indomitors box, I'm pretty certain. And it's not that dissimilar to kind of what we're seeing. Where was it? The one with the shield. To kind of what we're seeing here, really. Like, it's not massively different. It's just slightly different helmet, slightly different robes kind of thing. I mean, maybe that one's not the best example, but if we look at, like, so there's a Primaris Redemptor Dreadnought, and then let's have a look at the new Dreadnought as we scroll down here. So let's let me just bring that down. We'll put the two of them side by side here. Ignore my chat in the background there a second. We'll pop that one. There we go. We'll pop those two. Oh, I don't like the way it does that. There we go. We'll pop these two side by side. And it's like, it's not that dissimilar. Like, it's pretty similar on the front here. We've still got the same markings on it. The grill in the front here is kind of the same. It's got a weapon on the top. And I know it's meant to be like a different, like, kind of pattern of the same dreadnought, but it becomes a point where it's like, it's just like, to the untrained eye, to someone like me, I've got no idea kind of like which one's the new one, which one's the old one. If we go back into kind of here, we've got like we've got a lieutenant there with a sword, again, nice model, but we've also got, there's a lieutenant there. Oh, this one's got a gun. Oh, there's a version with a sword. Like, again, it's just more of the same kind of thing. And unless you are a really, really kind of close fan and you go, oh, that's a Mark 6 helmet, or look, they've brought back a Mark 3 helmet or something like that. Unless you're really, really into that kind of stuff, I just think it's almost just like wrapping paper now. It's really, really hard to tell. Matt says they're very, very generic. They're almost certainly using some AI to help pose them. Do you know what, mate? It would not surprise me if that's exactly how they're done. VG says Marines are the vanilla ice cream of miniatures. Still good, just a little bland. I really, really like the look of a Marine army on a tabletop. I am not dissing them at all for how they look. And if I was going to sort of pick up a combat patrol now to play combat patrol for 40k, I'd probably pick up the Marine one because I like the way Marines look. I just wish there was a bit more variety in it, and that it wasn't just when a new one comes out and everyone gets dead excited about it. I always just look and go, well, is that the new one? Am I sure that's the new one? It feels like I've already seen that one somewhere, kind of thing. Mordecai says Primaris are too modern and tactical. They don't have the gothic, grim, dark flair that the setting is based around. Same reason everyone hated Tau back in the day. I'm not even sure that the old Marines were that kind of gothic, mate, to be fair. I mean, if we have a look at the old kind of Firstborn type stuff, they're just smaller versions, really. I appreciate what they did with the Primaris is they made them quite generic in terms of you put your own spin on them, like how you paint them will be what sets them apart. And then you get things like Dark Angels where some of them have hoods and cloaks, and then we got Space Marine we get Space Wolf ones where they're slightly different. And I know there's a lot of kind of like add-on packs and things like that now to kind of change them, and we're starting. It's just been mentioned there, to be fair. People are saying they're very busy now, but they actually come with a lot of stuff to individualize them a little bit. So I get they can be a bit generic, but I think the onus is on you as a hobbyist to kind of like you paint them to fit your theme, kind of thing. So it's a real double-edged sword in terms of don't make them overly complicated, don't make them too boring, kind of thing, a little bit. Mutton Chops is saying what makes it different is you can use it in tournaments that others you can't. I think that kind of thing will disappear though if they just got rid of the old Marines, like the rules for the old Marines, and they only had Primaris Marines as the rules now. I don't think the vast majority of people would complain about it because they just say, well, that those 10 tactical Marines are 10 Primaris tactical Marines, because there isn't anything to confuse them with anymore, kind of thing. Samir's saying the Ash Jumpers are pretty cool, very eye-catching designs. Yeah, I like them as well, mate, to be fair. Andrew saying I thought everyone hated Tau due to their OP Fish of Fury lists and lack of melee. I don't really understand the whole hate and Tau thing, mate. It's just they're not my aesthetic at all, but I've never really been close enough to understand why. VJ says, wow, these minis are cool. I don't play Rulamunda, but those minis look cool. There's a lot of Necromunda stuff that I really like the look of. I think like Necromunda, I almost wish there was a Necromunda war cry, if you like, or a Necromunda kill team that wasn't quite as complex as Necromunda, not quite as rule heavy, but you got to basically take those. And I know you could use them in any other rule set and all that kind of stuff, but I do like official stuff as well. But I wish they would kind of make a simplified rule set to use those really, really cool Necromunda stuff. Volcano saying looks like an Appleseed rip-off. There's plenty of inspiration, shall we say, when it comes to people sort of creating minis and things like that. Jez is saying, see, loads more interesting. Yeah, that's my point, and that's what I was saying at the start of the show, really, about this is not meant to be negative. Like I'm not kind of bashing on Games Workshop. I said I think they make fantastic miniatures. They probably make the most consistently good quality miniatures in the tabletop industry, and they can certainly make some really interesting, really fun miniatures and stuff that I would love to kind of pick up and paint. I don't think Marines are bad models. They're not even bad sculpts kind of thing. They're just all the same. There's no variety in them. That's what kind of so something new will come out from Marines, and it's like it's another guy with another gun. Like, I'm not really that, like, it's hard to get excited about it when it just looks like all the others. Even if they didn't always paint them in ultramarine colors, that might help. Like, show them in a different color just to kind of sort of to give us some flavor to them, for example. John saying, yeah, she would look great in my Death Guard army. Yeah, it's a lovely miniature, isn't it? Zingbo says, given Space Marines a few extra pouches and aerials had a vocal part of the community consumed by rage. GW seem to have a little room to maneuver when it comes to designing space for some 40k armies. I completely agree, mate, and that's kind of one of the points I was making. I think they've painted themselves into a corner a little bit in terms of this is our biggest selling army, and as soon as we try and move even the slightest little bit, people get up in arms about it. Like look what happened when they brought out those kind of the grav tank type things. Look what happened when they brought out the little buggy for them. Look what happened when they bring out the Primaris Marines. Like, any little small wiggle room or trying to kind of change something, and there's a vocal minority. Let's be honest, it is not everybody. There's a vocal minority who will make their feelings very, very kind of heard. And I think basically it's like Games Workshop are scared to is improve the right word? Just to put some variety in it, really. Matt says Necromunda. Matt did say something about Necromunda, and then I jumped on my screen. Let me find it again. Where was that one? Wow, where did it go? Where the hell did that go? Oh, there it is. Matt says Necromunda has some of the best, most personable character miniatures going for it. Because it isn't the biggest seller, they allow Forge World sculptors to play with them and have fun. Is it the Forge World sculptors now, though? I'm assuming it's just part of the main thing. I think there's some fantastic miniatures for... fantastic miniatures for Age of Sigmar, and some fantastic miniatures for Warcry as well. But again, I think it's because they were allowed to reset the world. They were allowed to reset the expectations of miniatures. I think things like the Leagues of Votann for 40k is nice that they brought in a new army and they put their own spin on it. Like what their space dwarfs were going to look like now, they put their own new spin on it. It might not be to everybody's taste, but at least they did something different. I think when they introduced the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, they were something different. I think when they've introduced what's some other armies as well, I'm trying to think now, going back to like Age of Sigmar type stuff. Nothing comes to mind at the minute, but essentially when they're given the freedom to like really do something a bit different, I think they knock it out of the park 9 times out of 10. But I think when it comes to Space Marines, as we're saying, is they're painted into a corner. Skullduggery saying one use content in this economy. The Super Pokemon says I've never liked Space Marines and have no idea what would make me care about them. Bugs rule. I like how they look on the tabletop when there's a big sort of army of them. I would just like some variety in them. Like putting variety into an army by painting your chaplain a different colour and by painting your apothecary a different colour, like is, you know, that to me is not variety really kind of thing. Jess says it comes to something when Napoleonics are more interesting. Coffee Time Hobby says they do feel safe with their Space Marine designs, as if they want to do more, but the iconic silhouette can't drastically change. I 100% agree, mate, and I think that's where they are. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, really. I get the fact that it's iconic and it's, you know, it needs to look like that kind of thing. But even just bringing in a bit of flavour with a few little additions, like if you could bring in some kind of like unit that sort of is, you know, like, you know, almost like that kind of Navy SEAL unit, that undercover unit that goes in first. Like sort of it is almost, you know, if they get captured kind of thing, they're disavowed, and make them really different, make them like really unique, make them look like they've come from kind of Necromunda, from the Underhive, and they're kind of sort of undercover. I would love to see something like that to bring some flavour in. Andrew Fairbanks says, honestly, it's just the continuation of the change from Firstborn to Primaris. Have the old stuff. You don't need to buy this unless you want. Yeah, maybe. VG saying, yeah, Necromunda's got some great sculpts, same as Underworlds. Great spot for putting interesting sculpts that don't fit in the big factions for the main games. Yeah. Mordecai saying, scaled up Space Marine alone would have been great and separated tactical Space Marines, but would have been seen as a Dark Angels player painting Primaris green wasn't enough to have them fit in. I think they've changed a bit over time, and maybe when they first launched it was a very ultramarine focused, I suppose. Sergeant Fubar says, I'm still playing 8th edition, sick of codexes coming out and outdated in 1 month. I think, to be honest, man, I think that's where rule sets, where things like one-page rules and stuff come in, where it's like, use the cool minis you want, but at this point in time, like, almost, you know, like, don't even worry about trying to keep up with stuff anymore. If you're playing so infrequently, or you just want to play casually, the only reasons you need to be up to date with the latest rules is if you're playing in an area where everybody plays the latest rules, really. VG saying, Space Marines are now basically Malibu Stacy. She's got a new hat. I wouldn't disagree with that, mate, to be fair. Volcano saying, Primaris are the only faction which harbours design blunders. Mario Kart, pole jumper, autocannons, baby carrier jetpacks, nerf gun missile launchers. I'm not even necessarily sure that they're design blunders, though. I think it's the kind of things where people like to kind of, you know, like to make memes out of things when it becomes Space Marines and stuff like that. I think they're not always to everybody's taste, but they still sell. Like, they still sell in their thousands. It's me saying, Marines without purity seals. Did Andy just spout past me? Somebody has to go to battle for the first time at some point, mate. Let's have a little look down the chat here. ER910, good evening to you, mate. Super Pumpkin Man saying, only recently, due to the new Grimdark painting style and alternative 3D printed knightly helmets, AOS Stormcast looked less dumb to me. I quite like the Stormcast, but again, they are very much the Marines of AOS, and generally don't stray too far from the from the guys in gold kind of thing. John says, I likely won't play a single game of 10th edition, seriously considering going back to 2nd, and if I can find someone as crazy as me for skirmish sized games that are narrative driven. Again, mate, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It really depends upon who you're playing with. If the only game you're going to get is once every 6 months down the local games club, unfortunately you're probably going to have to try and sort of keep up with it just to be able to get that one game in. But if you play against the same person all the time, be that once a month or be that once every 6 months, if you and that other person go, look, we're just going to use these rules, I'm not worried. Like, you know, if for example 10th edition came out and you bought the starter set and you got the rule book and you downloaded all the free indexes and you said, look, those are the index cards, those are the points, we're not moving from there. Who's nobody's coming round to kind of take them off you, kind of thing. Which is why it frustrates me so much that Games Workshop have got rid of the free stuff, that they've basically systematically gone through those armies, and every time they release a codex they're going to be taking away the free stuff. That, I think that is shady as hell. RG says, Marines ambivalent. In GW range, Battle Sisters and Orcs are my faves, but to be honest, not that interested in the game. I'll stick to Dead Zone and 5 parsecs. Yeah, and it's not for everybody. It just happens to be the most popular game in the world as far as tabletop comes. So it's something I want to kind of at least give it its fair due. Like, I do like the miniatures. I do like the setting. And I feel like I'm doing it in injustice by not even kind of giving it a try. In terms of me doing this like as a job, I feel like that the least I should do is have an informed decision from playing it and trying it. But there's just all these little things keep cropping up every time I think, right, I'm gonna buy myself a box of Marines or whatever it is, and I'm gonna buy myself something. I'm gonna get them painted up and I'm gonna give it a try. Like, something moves, something changes, the points change, the rules change, a new codex comes out, all the index cards are irrelevant anymore, and I always feel like, you know, before I would even get a chance to play her, like, I'll have gone through 2 or 3 changes. It's just not worth it. Yeah, just the same. They're not bad designs. They're just a lot of them everywhere. Yeah, exactly, mate. John says, it's odd, really. Me not liking Primaris, but have no problem with the Stormcast, the Sigmarines. I think that the difference, mate, is that the Stormcast have always just been the Stormcast, haven't they? Matt says, to help you out, Andy, the new one will always be the most expensive one. There is that, mate. I did bring up the price list there as well very briefly before, and I downloaded this today to kind of show you. I'm not sure if this has really been shown online anywhere, but I always get access to the price lists. So what we've got is there's the chapter approved Leviathan mission deck, which I think is just like mission cards. It's going to be £19 in the UK. We've got the Codex, is going to be £35. And these are Games Workshop RRP prices. Your local store may have a discount. We've got the datasheet cards, which are £25, and these are new datasheet cards, not the ones that just came out recently. These ones replace those, and then they'll have different rules on them and stuff like that. We've got the Space Marines Company Heroes for £40. The Jump Pack Intercessors are £35. We've got the Captain with a Jump Pack, £25 for that one model. We've got the Dreadnought, is $47.50. We've got the Stern Guard Veteran Squad for $37.50. We've got the Lieutenant on its own for $22.50. We've got a Desolation Squad for $35. We've got a Terminator Squad for £40. And we've got the Chaplain on its own for £26 as well. And then 18 quid for the dice that they're selling as well. And somebody said something about these coming in a box of 5, and you need 2 boxes to make like a unit of 10. I'm assuming that must be something like the Jump Pack Intercessors or something like that. So yeah, 5 of them for £35, so £70 a unit. I don't know if that's right or not, but that was just what somebody told me today. So that does seem like it's getting a little bit on the pricey end of things, shall we say. Peter says, isn't the problem that there are so many chapters now that they make them generic so anyone can stick chapter specific bits on them for their army? Yeah, quite possibly, mate. And I think to an extent that's no bad thing. It gives some flexibility to people to be able to kind of paint them how they want. There's an element of the vast majority of people are not like absolute like sort of lore fanatics and just want to paint up some Space Marines. I think we have to always remember that the people that are the most vocal about this kind of stuff are definitely in the minority. Like they are not the vast majority of people that buy Games Workshop's products. And just because some people get really, really vocal about lack of detail or something like that, there's a far greater amount of people out there who are quite happy that there's a bit less detail and they can just paint them how they want and kit bash them a bit if they want to kind of do something different with them. Luke says, I absolutely can't deny I love Marines and really like all the universe of 40k. It's all simply awesome and a fully painted Marine army is inspiring. 100% agree with you, mate, yeah. Vijay says, I do like different armor marks. I remember recently they did a cast to order armor mark set and I was going to get one, but once I realised they were going to be GW resin, I thought better of it. I haven't had a lot of sort of experience of GW resin, to be fair. Luke's saying still too many skulls though. I think that's just a GW thing, isn't it, mate? Mark Berracloth, good evening, buddy. How are you doing? He said he's just finished a game of 40k. Nice to see you playing games, mate. That's always a good thing. Ted Williams says, bear in mind that Marines have to be generic to allow you to use them in an established chapter or any established chapter in the lore or any homebrew chapter you choose to create. Yeah, I agree, mate. That's what I was saying before, really. I think the idea is to make them as flexible as possible for the majority of people. As I said before, I think that the people that get quite irate and get noisy about it are generally very, very much in the minority. John says, my favourite Marine models are the oldest Rogue Trader era and later. They seem to have way more character and individuality, which is more fun to paint. It's funny, I do wonder whether it's all just a little bit nostalgia, mate, and like it depends when you got into it, and like it's a bit like the Star Wars things, isn't it? About like I grew up with the original kind of Star Wars, sort of episode 4, 5 and 6. And then basically the next lot came along, the prequel trilogy 1, 2 and 3, and people kind of hated them at the time because it wasn't their Star Wars. But then the kids that grew up with that as their Star Wars absolutely love that stuff. And I wonder whether it's the same thing with these Marines. Is like, I didn't really get into like painting miniatures and stuff until much later. And I really like the Primaris Marines because it's more my kind of style, and it's more what I've kind of sort of gotten into the hobby with. If you got into the hobby back like sort of 30, 40 years ago when Space Marines were first coming out, maybe that's like where your heart lies kind of thing. That's where all your fond memories are. And everything since then's just been like change for change's sake. And I remember how cheap they were back then and how many you got in a box. And now it's just a big money grab. I do wonder whether nostalgia plays a huge part in that. Greg saying basic... Whoops, there it goes again. I don't know what it is with this chat. As soon as I get to something near the bottom, it all goes flying. Basic rules of Necromunda are way easier than kill team symbols and complicated line of sight. The basics are easy to grasp and everything else is just a bolt-on additive. I think the problem is, mate, is they're quite a crunchy rule set and are spread out over many, many different places, which makes it difficult entry point. That's been my experience in the past anyway. Let's have a look. Bobby Clarkson, if you don't get excited for the uniformity and similarity of Marines, isn't the solution to choose one of the other 20 plus factions in 40k that does excite you, or am I missing something here? No, I maybe I haven't explained myself properly. I like Marines, and I like the fact that they look like a cohesive kind of army. My frustration is that every time something new comes out, it looks like everything else that's already out. It's not different enough. It's not bringing anything new to the table kind of thing. It feels like a little bit like, look at these new tyres I've just got for my car. And it's like, well, they're black and they're rubber and they've got treads on it. Yeah, but these ones are Pirellis. I had Hankooks before, that kind of thing. It feels a little bit like that. It just feels like a little bit of wallpaper in the background. Like, I like them, and I would still probably choose them for my army. But they just, like, when something new gets announced for them, there's always this big fanfare about new Marine stuff coming out, and everybody gets excited, and I look at it and I just think, but it's just the same. So it's not about not liking them, and it's not about not getting excited about Marines. It's about not getting excited about new releases because they just look like everything that's already out there a little bit. And yeah, of course you can pick up other factions if there's something else that interests you more. I think for me, Marines are the one that interests me. I do like them. It's just the fact that nothing ever changes, basically. Peter saying, I like the OG GW stuff, but also the new things. End of the day, just pick your fancy. Exactly, mate, yeah. RG says, regarding different colour, LBGTQ Marines. Love it. Yeah, paint them however you want, mate. Of course you can. Samir says, I think my favourite Space Marine models were the firstborn Assault Marines. They were just very beautiful models in a very simple way. Yeah, I think it's definitely for me. They look very dated to me now, and I think it's because I got into the hobby much later than I think a lot of you folks probably did. So I don't have any of that like nostalgia for the kind of stuff. John saying there are a galaxy of wicked models out there from any number of games. Great if you just like to paint and model. Yeah, of course, mate, yeah. John saying, when I think of Space Marines, the John Civic painting on the cover of Rogue Trader always crowds out everything else. It's very iconic, mate, definitely. Peter says, you know what they need? The Necron treatment. Necrons used to all look samey. Now they have battle damage on, which gives them character. Gives us battle damage Marines. You know what, mate? That might actually not be a bad shout. Just something to bring in something a little bit different. Lucas Games says, I personally love the Primaris. You and me both, mate. I love the Primaris as well. It's just like I said before, every time something new comes out, it's just the same as what we've already got. VJ says, you say design blunder. I say if you aren't swinging for the fences, you'll never hit a homer. Yeah, I agree with that as well, mate. I think sometimes you need to try something different. And I think this is a prime example. These are the things where they try something different. The feedback they get is, oh, that's awful. And I think all it tends to do is it just pushes them back to go, just play it safe, just play it safe. Give them a different helmet. Give them a different sword. Give them a backpack. Make them stand on a rock. Just don't rock the boat kind of thing. And I think you're right. Sometimes it's it's the fact that there's a vocal minority of people who like to complain about the new stuff that keeps them very, very samey. RG says you need the equivalent of the 95th Rifles or Blackwatch in Napoleonics for Marines. I'm not familiar with what they are, mate, to be fair. Cronhall says thoughts on 3D printing. I'm all for it, mate. I think it's a nice addition to tabletop hobby, and it's a good tool for people to use. If people want to 3D print miniatures, by all means, go for it. I think there's some cool alternative marine models that people have 3D printed, or people have sculpted and are available to be 3D printed, and it shows that you can use the marine, let's say the marine silhouette, and do something different with them. They don't all necessarily all have to wear the exact same armor kind of thing. Lucas says, sure, the helmets on them could be better looking, all hail Mark III helmets, but I prefer a marine that doesn't have the proportions of a dwarf. It also makes lore sense with Raven Guard and Cole. Kodos is saying, hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Nice to see you, Kodos. Jess says there's an increased mini GW released in a box recently. I'm absolutely buying when it's sold separately. A Nurgle fella on a rotten horse, a Harbinger or something like that. It's absolutely beautiful. I don't think I've seen that one, mate, to be fair. Oh, incredible, sorry, not increase. John saying, design blunders. Take a look at any tank from 40k. Shot traps abound. High silhouettes, mechanically idiotic track systems, death traps, ask any tanker. I don't think they necessarily need to be realistic though, mate. I mean, let's be honest. It's a sci-fi universe where we've got bio-engineered soldiers. I'm sure if we really wanted to, we can come up with some kind of law reason why their tanks look like their tanks do. So I don't necessarily kind of feel distracted by that kind of stuff. John says, with GW removing the free indexes, I downloaded all the other items available, so I had to rename all of them, then sort into respective folders. It took ages. Indexes, combat patrols. Yeah, there is that, mate, as well. Jess is saying 20 quid for a marine, baffling. 25 quid in some cases, mate, yeah. VJ saying 70 Australian dollars for a book that will be useless in a couple of years. Technically sooner if you include updates, errata. Yeah, no thanks, I'd rather buy a board game. I think the thing with the books, mate, is I think there's value in the books themselves as a book, for nice artwork, for painting guides, for the lore that's in them, like the background lore and the information, as physically having something that's very nice just to kind of pick up and read. I'm not even sure they need to have the stats in them anymore. They definitely don't need to have the points in them anymore, because the points are all online and keep getting updated. I'm not sure they need to have the stats in them now, as they basically are all either on the digital app now, or they're on index cards. There's other places, like if you bought the Codex and it gave you a digital code, and I know they do, they give you a digital code to unlock it in the app. Like if you bought the Codex and it gave you that, the book would never ever be out of date. The book would always just be a nice book kind of thing. But I think there's something inherent about you buy a Codex, it has stats, it has points cost in it, it has like sort of stratagems and all that kind of stuff. And instantly, like look at the Tyranid one recently, instantly when you buy that book, the day you pick that up from the shop, the day of release, it's already wrong in terms of the stats, the point cost, etc. And that for me is where, in this age, if they're going to update games as frequently as they update them, in terms of errata and point cost changes and stat changes and rules changes, if they're going to update them as fast as that, and if that's what they want to do, all power to them, they can do that. But then don't make them a hard copy printable thing. Put them in a digital format. There's plenty of other companies that basically work like that, and just make their codexes a piece of art, like, you know, like just like a narrative edition. Put painting guides in it. Put people's community pictures of their armies, if people have been painting cool armies. Put like all of the different chapter information in them and stuff like that. Make them worth the money on their own, and get all of the stats into the app or get them into the digital systems, if you're gonna constantly update them all the time and expect people to go online and look for them anyway. Let me skip ahead a little bit and try and catch up with the chat here. Let's have a little look. Jess is saying if they did codexes that were just painting guides, I'd probably actually buy them. Literally what I've just been saying there, mate. Yeah. John saying I'm intrigued by Legion Imperialis, though I'm sure the starter box will be priced way out of my range. Love tiny tanks and infantry, paint small to game big. I think it's going to be one of them things, mate, that just kind of goes on the back burner a little bit and never really gets spoke about very much. And VJ saying without Xenos, the new epic is not interesting for him. Yeah, I think there's other people feel the same way about that as well, to be fair. Let's have a little look here. James Macken saying, I think the discontinuing of the Mark 6 Space Wolf helmets and the announcement of Mark 6 Assault Marines shows that in certain circumstances, GW will listen when the community gets vocal. If I'm being perfectly honest, I think they listen too much. I think sometimes they need to make a decision and stick with it, and not necessarily always bow to vocal pressure kind of thing. And I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but sometimes, like, if you always crowdsource your opinions on what's right and what's wrong, you basically you never please everybody. You'll never please everybody. The best thing you can do sometimes is go out on a limb and do what you feel is right with the property that you own. And they own Warhammer kind of thing. You know, it's their world. If they want to introduce something different to it, go ahead and do it. But just stand by your guns. Like, if you want to take something out for a reason, take it out. But I think sometimes they almost bow to a vocal minority sometimes. Let's have a little look here. Fiji says, when it comes to helmets, you're either a Beaky fan or you're wrong. Mark says, did you see the images and videos of the Dungeon Saga Origins production? Any thoughts, excitement? I haven't seen it, mate, no. I haven't seen anything about it at all. Mordecai saying, let's be clear, sales determines what GW do, not a vocal minority whining on the internet. I'm not so sure, mate. I think sometimes they're frightened about upsetting their customer base sometimes, and I think they can very quickly flip-flop. And I think that basically a lot of that comes from being a publicly traded company with shareholders. Is that and sometimes that's about like you can get like what's. You get this when you're basically like when you're sailing a boat or when you're flying an airplane. You can get like an overcorrection, and basically instead of just sailing in a straight line, you turn to get back on course a little bit, but you overturn and you kind of point it off. So what you do is you overcorrect the other way to kind of come back again, and you overcorrect again, and you end up just constantly like zigzagging across kind of thing, and you become out of control. And sometimes I think Games Workshop can be, that criticism can be levied at them, that sometimes I think they react very, very quickly to changing points costs. They react very, very quickly to changing rules, and they react very quickly to changing like stats and things like that as well. That when sometimes they just need the power of their convictions to let things shake out. Like something can be a little bit overpowered when it's new because people haven't worked out how to play against it yet, and it's also in isolation. It gets overcompensated, so they basically nerf it really, really quickly, and then the next book comes out, and that's a little bit overpowered kind of thing as well. And then they nerf it quick because they kind of like the audience kind of pushes back on it. And I think sometimes, even if they had a rule that says we don't do anything for 6 months, we let it play out, because at the end of the day, they're only really catering to the tournament crowd in this instance. The vast majority of people playing casual games don't really worry about things being that, like, you know, like a little bit over like overpowered or something like that. Because what you do is you find ways to deal with it. You find ways to play into it, and some people will normally will naturally just say, well, look, I'll they're a nightmare if you take 5 of those kind of thing. I'll only take 3. So I think the vast majority of people would learn to just deal with it. But I think they over cater for that tournament crowd, and so that like even the way they do these kind of updates where they're saying about win percentages and all this kind of stuff, that doesn't take into account like people just having fun. That takes into account, it doesn't take into account the skill levels of the people playing those armies. And I appreciate with Games Workshop the sheer volume of numbers means that those kind of things should level out a little bit. But I still think it's an overreaction sometimes, and it's sometimes a little bit too quick. Clyde saying, oh no, he doesn't know the Black Watch. I don't really know history stuff, mate, if I'm being perfectly honest. Where are we up to down here? Samia says, more likes. Can we squeeze some more likes out, folks? I'm sure we can squeeze some more likes out. It says we got 57 likes. I think we could definitely get over. If we can get over 65 likes, that would make me a happy bunny. Can we get a few more likes out? Matt saying he needs to slide off. Have a great rest of the stream. Thanks very much for coming in, mate. I appreciate it. James Mackin says, if they added conversion guides like old White Dwarf articles, it would add a lot of value to newer codexes. I agree with that, mate. I think if they put things in there, even painting guides for things like terrain and stuff like that, like there's no harm in recycling some of the stuff that they've put in, like White Dwarfs and stuff like that, and condensing it into one place, like putting custom chapter things in there, or even the way in Kill Team books where they put a way into generating names and stuff for characters. Even if they put that kind of stuff into codexes, I can see there'd be value in there. Mark says, if you're happy and you know it, hit the like. Go on, folks, that's it. We're up to 70. Can we squeeze any more out of it? Go on. Peter says, we need 40k Apocalypse. No, not the big game, just an Apocalypse. Make Marines look like ragtag survivors, like the Imperial Remnant troops in the last episode of Ahsoka. You know what? That's not a bad shout. Like to have a unit of Marines that have been in the wars. Like we see them in the animation where they get shot. We see them in the animation where they're getting attacked by Tyranids and stuff like that. Why do they always have to look absolutely perfect? Like the other armies don't always look perfect, kind of thing. Peter saying, yeah, the stormtroopers looked awesome. They definitely did. Like I like that stuff. Somebody says, nicely done, like Marines. Yeah, exactly. Clyde Dashin, thank you very much for the super chat there, mate. I'm sure it's gonna pop up on the screen there anytime soon. But he says, I've only got 1 like in me. I tell you what, mate, 1 like, you'd be surprised how far 1 like goes, mate. We're up to 74 likes now. That definitely means there were people that hadn't liked the video before, so I do appreciate it. And I appreciate that it just sounds like some kind of e-begging, but I am going to beg for likes because that's what gets YouTube triggering away and all that kind of malarkey. So there you go. Yeah, if you unlike it, you can like it again. It just gets confused at that point. Mordecai says the discussion around GW bowing to the whims of the vocal minority was about model design, not game balance. I think it works on both, mate, to be fair. I think they would be a fool to completely ignore their audience when it comes to when it comes to model design. I think they know what people like, they know what sells, and I think they'd be a fool not to kind of take some direction. But I also think that sometimes they need to stand by their guns and actually give their sculptors a little bit more freedom and to get outside of the box a little bit. James is saying a kit of damaged Marines and a mishmash of scavenged armor marks would fit the concept. Absolutely, mate. Honestly, I think if they came out with like a unit of Marines with a backstory, like for example, if we go back a little while ago, there was what were they called again? Was it Legion of Doom or something? I might be getting mixed up with the wrestling thing now. Let me try and Google it now. Somebody will probably tell me in the chat. I remember painting them when I first started painting miniatures. Legion of the Damned, that was where I was trying to think of. I remember painting them metal minis, and I had them, and that kind of stuff. Let's be honest, it's still like classic Space Marines kind of thing. Let's have a look. It's still classic Space Marines, but it was just something a little bit different. And the idea of having this kind of elite unit that was a bit different. Like, I remember painting them, and I picked them up purely because they had a bit of flavour. Like, they had a little bit of something different in them. Let me just try and find a better image of them, because they look a bit garbage there, to be fair. But these kind of guys, like that, I just find that that's just something a little bit, you know, it's a bit different. It's something interesting. Like having this kind of sort of bespoke unit as part of your main army. That, like, you know, like there must be kind of law reasons why there's this kind of like elite fighting unit that could go into any Marine army, but basically, you know, there's a narrative reason why they've come across as a speciality kind of crack troop kind of thing. Mark Burracloth, absolutely perfect, mate. Yeah, Space Marines, the Bad Batch. That's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. That kind of sort of, you know, what about the Marines that basically, like, you know, maybe they're questioning the Emperor and stuff like that, and they're, you know, they're all not in a heresy way kind of thing and turning towards chaos, but almost about like, I think, is there a reason why we're fighting for what we're fighting for kind of thing? Are we sure this is the right thing kind of thing? Yeah, Legion of the Damned was it, James. Yeah, thank you very much. Legion of Doom was definitely the wrestling thing. That's what I was thinking of. Samia saying Death Watch is nice because you can add little customizations to make unique Marines with the flavour from different chapters in the same unit. Yeah, and I think maybe they just think, oh, well, we've covered it off with Death Watch kind of thing. But it's almost a bit of lip service to it kind of thing. And Nos saying Legion of the Damned, perfectly gothic and dark minis. Unfortunately, there was only one box. Yeah, I had them, the metal ones. I would love to see them come back. And you bring them back and you say basically they can go into any Marine army at all. So all of a sudden, doesn't matter what army you paint, you've got this kind of crack team unit of stuff. And you say, right, look, there's only 5 of them. Like, you don't take multiple units of this thing. Jess is saying, I'd love it if GW did the wars with the techno-barbarian tribes before the Great Crusade. Lots of crazy designs there. I'm not 100% sure on that stuff. Peter says, Legion of the Damned lore said they were ethereal and phased into existence to aid other Marines when in dire need. Yeah, I absolutely think you could have that kind of like really cool, like Mark was saying, like the Bad Batch kind of vibe about it. Something a little bit like rebellious, but without being like without kind of turning to chaos. Why can't they be a little bit rebellious, a little bit pushing against the rules and stuff like that, you know, like questioning why they do it, or like to do things a slightly different way, you know, like maybe don't necessarily follow the sort of like the Astartes Codex to the letter, you know, like they kind of live a little bit more of a roguish way. Vichy says, when you hear Legion of Doom, you either think wrestling or you think League of Super Friends. I'm not like that. James says, Black Shields in 30k didn't pick sides in the Civil War and scavenged and raided for equipment. Bringing the concept back after the galaxy was torn in half in 40k could add flavour. Yeah, absolutely it could, mate. It definitely could. Mordecai says, GW bundled the old Renegade armies, neither Chaos nor Imperium, into Chaos Forces a decade ago. Yeah, and I think it basically just diluted it for me. I think you need that middle ground. I think one of the things about Marines and the fact they're all in the same armor and they're all basically, I know they're not goody two shoes kind of thing. Let's not say that they're good guys, but they like every single one of them does exactly what they're told to do. Like the fact that like you could have a unit that were like a little bit, you know, whenever you watch kind of like films and you see this kind of, there's always a unit in this army film or something like that that is a little bit kind of renegade. Like, they do things their own way. They don't wear the uniforms. They're sitting around drinking beer until they're basically like till they get the call to jump in a helicopter and fly away somewhere and infiltrate behind enemy lines. They're the ones with their caps on back to front and kind of wearing sort of Megadeth t-shirts when everybody else is in uniform. Like, that would bring character into a Marine force. I'm not talking about completely wiping away the history of the 40k universe in the Marines, but just giving you a little unit of flavor, giving you like that one character. Give us a lieutenant or a captain or something like that basically doesn't conform. You know, like he's a bit different. He wears something different. He's got some armor. He was kind of like left behind enemy lines, and he's had to fashion his own kind of armor and repair his own armor, and he looks a bit kind of ragtag. Do something different. Luke's saying, yeah, like Arnie's team in Predator. Absolutely. I've just been watching Lioness with my wife. It's a TV show on Paramount Channel, and it's basically about this Lioness unit, which is basically kind of like this. They essentially work for the CIA type thing, but they're like a team of Marines. Like, there's about 7 of them or something like that. It's exactly that kind of thing. Kelly's Space Marine Hero, as Paul saying, yes, exactly that kind of thing. To be honest, I'd be happy to do something like that myself and I know you can do it. I know you can do it yourself. You know, you can bring that stuff into your own flavour if you wanted to. But I just feel like just giving it a bit of flavour, you know, just bringing in those kind of characters would go some way to breaking up this new thing is just like all of the existing things. It's fantastically sculpted. It looks beautiful, but it just looks the same. I would love to see something breaking up. To break it up, sorry. James is saying they could take las guns to represent being under-equipped. It would be funny to see the weapon option pop up in 40k. Yeah, honestly, I mean, it could be that they've basically like looted other people's weapons to kind of pull something together, because they basically got left behind, and they had to they had to use what they could use, kind of thing. You could even see them swinging like blooming orcs axes and stuff like that. You know, like a real kind of like, you know, we've had to make do here kind of thing. VJ saying that's probably why back in the day when I first played 40k, I collected Space Wolves. The second edition Space Wolf sculpts were cool and had character. Yeah. Samir saying Tau Marines. It's still power armor, right? I don't know enough about Tau, if I'm being perfectly honest. But honestly, like, here is a prime example, right? What we've just been talking about there in the last 10 minutes. And Peter Cooman saying there, to be fair, a unique squad would be kill team territory, but even they're used as the same bland Marines, but with upgrade sprue. There's the perfect example. Bring them out as a kill team. Bring out this unit in a box for kill team of these, basically this squad of Marines that have been stranded on some alien planet, and they've had to loot, and they've had to like adapt, and they've had to make do with what they can get their hands on, right? And that's your unit for kill team, this squad, right? But then give rules in 40k where you can bring that as a unit that basically your Ultramarine army has kind of gone to this planet, has found this unit behind enemy lines kind of thing, and has rescued them, and now they're part of this. Now they're part of the squad kind of thing. Clyde saying, aren't we talking about Gaunt's Ghosts for Marines? I've no idea, mate. I've never read Gaunt's Ghost. Andrew saying, you hear of Death Watch? Yeah, I've heard of Death Watch, but they're just Marines. They're not really that different. The story might be different. Like, if you're telling me Death Watch has got that as a story, you know, but then that's brilliant. But the minis don't reflect that flavour. The minis are just more Marines kind of thing. VJ saying breaking the monotony of releases would be good, but given the leanings of a good chunk of the fan base now, doing anything out of the norm would result in screeching and much gnashing of teeth. I think the problem is, mate, is this goes back to what I was saying before about kind of catering to a vocal minority. I think, you know, at the end of the day, if you don't like them, don't buy them kind of thing. But that's not necessarily a reason to like stop everybody else enjoying stuff as well. Samir saying, I can see that. A lieutenant from the 1st company, tacticals from, say, 2nd and 3rd, and scout snipers from 10th. Mordecai saying, my original 5th edition Guard Army lore were a bunch of bandana-wearing renegades that were loyal to the original, at times Xeno-friendly vision of the Emperor, but opposed to the theocracy of the Imperium. Yeah, Mark Barraclough saying, A-team tank with unit. Yeah, I'll buy them. Yeah, almost this kind of like orc mentality of let's take what we can get our hands on and make it ours kind of thing. Let's make it work. Ponja's saying Gaunt's Ghost is hands down the best 40k book series. So what is Gaunt's Ghost? Is it like is it Imperial Guard kind of army, or is it Marines? I've never read the Gaunt's Ghost stuff. I don't know anything about it. Peterson, I've shown my age here. Last Chances were the best Imperial unit ever made. There, I said it. Yeah, I definitely don't know that stuff. VG says, let's just say for a faction of the player base, live and let live doesn't exactly float their boat. You know what, mate? Screw them. They don't speak for everybody. Screw them. If they're not happy, they can go and play something else. Let's not try and stop everybody else having fun to cater for that 1% of people who are just vocal knobs. Yeah, or wear their armband. Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Samir says the Marines need a little comedic relief, like Cyphers Kane. I'm not even sure you need to push it like into a comedy way to kind of give it a bit of flavour. Just something a bit different. Just like Jez is saying Gaunt's Ghost is extremely dangerous. Welsh blokes in the guard. Right, that's what I thought it was. Then yeah, yeah. I just think like, for example, we're just chatting about this tonight, and even just kind of spitballing these ideas have got me like more interested in putting together a Marine army where I could have this ragtag kind of Kelly's Heroes unit in there as well. And Smear saying, yeah, Last Chances is a good call. There you go. See, Marines can be fun. You just don't always have to do like that. Andrew saying, oh wait, there's my Space Marines, Raven Guard Assault Marines, Salamanders with the flamethrowers, White Scar Bikers, and Imperial Fist with heavy intercessors. There's nothing wrong with that at all, mate. But I don't want like the way to make this more interesting isn't just paint them all a different colour kind of thing. I'd like to see interesting models, something different in there. So for example, if I go back to what we were looking at before, and we have a look at this character here, like why can't this be like a unit of Marines that have basically been left on some kind of ash waste place, and they've been living with sort of Necromunda folks, like just basically trying to get by kind of thing, and then they're picked up. You know, why couldn't it be something like that? Why couldn't there was why couldn't Marines be a little bit different? Something along them lines, you know, like the units. You could still have bits of armor underneath and stuff, but the rags over the stuff over the top to try and, like, you know, where they've been hiding out. They don't always have to like sort of look like they've just been for a spit and polish and a, you know, like and a wax kind of thing. Always looking absolutely perfect. Andrew says technical a rainbow of death. Peter says they had their own box of 12 unique sculpts with their own background. Still have the White Dwarf from their release. Great backstories. Jason says Legion of the Damned, aren't they like supernatural Marines? Give them some ghastly rules. Yeah, I would love to see them come back. Samir saying because of Necromunda, not everyone is named brother. All the more reason to do it, mate. James Mackin saying Tyrannic War Veterans was a regular kit put out. GW could put out something more unique without having to go through Kill Team. I just think if you put it through Kill Team, you sell a lot of them, because what you do is, if you can only have one of them units in your army, for example, then you limit how many people will buy. But if you sell it as a Kill Team box with rules in 40k, it'll sell enough through Kill Team just to kind of make its money back kind of thing, and to make money on it. Mordecai saying Token Gaunt's Ghost, Stan Abnett's Brothers of the Snake Space Marine stories pretty good. Yeah, I'm not really familiar too much with the Black Library stuff, if I'm honest. Like, I've read a few of the Horus Heresy books, and I've got the odd I've got, what's the story I've got on my Audible account at the minute, which, if I can find it, I got it to listen to when I was on holiday, and I must admit I never got around to it. It's called Bloodlines, which is an Augusto Zidorov audio book. It's based around Warhammer 40K, but it's one of the kind of like background. Is there anything on here that tells me about it? I don't even think there is, basically. Normally there's something that tells you a little bit of background stuff, but yeah, it's that one anyway. I don't know if that's going to show up on the camera, but in fact, let me do a Google search and we'll see what the hell it's about. So it is called Bloodlines 40K. Let's see what that one comes up. So it is this one. This is the one that I've kind of got from my audio book. This is the first title in the new Warhammer Crime imprint. So it's kind of like a crime story kind of thing, set in the Warhammer 40K universe, which really interested me because it wasn't like Necromunda and it wasn't like sort of Space Marines. And it's essentially about when Probator Augusto Zidorov of the city's end forces is charged with locating the missing scion of a wealthy family. He knows full well the chances of finding him alive are slight. The people demanding answers, though, are powerful and ruthless, and he is soon immersed in a world of criminal cartels and corporate warfare where even an enforcer's survival is far from guaranteed. So it's a bit of a kind of a Philip Marlowe kind of crime novel type thing, and I like the fact that there's a world outside of men in power armor kind of thing. You know what I mean? Luke's in another Oathsworn made hero done. You're flying through those, mate. Well done. Vijay says what we really need is more Marnius Calgar on the toilet miniatures in the Space Marine line. Peter says Marnius on the Golden Throne was the best mini, followed by Gene Stealer Pimp. Probably Night Lords. John saying, yeah. Clyde saying, does Oathsworn have novels to support the backstory? I don't know. Do you know, Luke? VJ saying Gene Stealer Patriarch on the toilet throne was pretty awesome. I remember seeing that one as well. And VJ saying Gene Stealer Pimp Limo was the bomb. I got the remake by War Games exclusive. I'm not familiar with that, mate. I'm not familiar with that one. Anyway, folks, I think we will start to wrap it up there now a little bit, because I have to be up early to take my little boy to school because my wife's away tomorrow. So I am doing the school run on my feet, mate. I'm not driving because my wife's got the car, so I have to get up early to be able to walk to school. So I'm going to call it a night there. Safe to say, if you didn't see last week's This Week in Wargaming, please help me out. Give it a nudge. If you want to see that kind of stuff becoming like a more regular type of thing, please give it a nudge. Yeah, Samir is saying another great stream. Can we cap off at 80 likes? We're on 78 likes at the minute. Are there 2 people out there who haven't liked the video? There's 179. I'm sure we can squeeze one more out. Go on, can we? One more person? Can we do it? Mark says, I see 80. It's only showing 79 on my side, mate. It's still only saying 79 on mine. You're all saying it says 80 for you. I don't know why. Oh, it's just clicked over to 80 there for me now. Thank you, Hobby Hooligans, as Samir says. Yes. Yes. If you want to see those kind of sort of little sort of bite-sized news updates every week, which give us a chance to kind of tell the world about the kind of the more niche stuff that's out there, the smaller games, the miniatures companies, the independent creators, all that kind of stuff, please support it by kind of watching the video, giving it a thumbs up, you know, put the notifications on. Every Friday we will have one of those videos, and I'm committing to doing them every Friday for at least a few months, just to give it like kind of room to breathe and to see if people enjoy that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you like it, please do support it. We'll still be doing our Monday live streams. We'll be doing the Friday news updates. I'm trying to kind of work in a way that by doing that, it gives me time to work on slightly bigger videos that might take a little bit more time to do, and we do them kind of midpoint through the week. between the kind of live stream and the other one. And I'm trying, instead of trying to do everything and achieving nothing, I'm trying to kind of focus on, right, Mondays are live streams, Fridays a news update, and then I'll kind of work on another video, be it like 3D printing stuff, be it painting something, be it a review of a game, be it how to play, something like that. Those will be the kind of like the Wednesday kind of midweek stuff type thing. So that's the plan, folks. If you do want to support the channel and you want to come and join our Discord for members and Patreons, please, I would love for you to come and join us. You can join the Patreon from as little as $2 per month. $2 in this day and age does not even buy a cup of coffee. But please do consider supporting the channel. The fact that we don't only talk about Games Workshop stuff, that kind of stuff, like, it doesn't survive on YouTube on its own without a fantastic community like you folks kind of supporting me other ways as well. So if you do want to see that kind of independent channels trying to cover lots and lots of different stuff and not just the mainstream stuff all the time, please do consider checking out patreon.com/BlackJack Legacy, and that would really appreciate that. Anyway, folks, take care, enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you for the live stream next Monday where we have our special guest. And don't forget as well, we painting challenge deadline is this Sunday. So take care, folks. I'll see you next week.